Welcome to Decentralize TV here on Brighteon.com. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of Brighteon. And this show, which is gaining a lot of popularity, by the way, thank you for your support. This show explores decentralized living. That is how we can live in a more self-reliant way without centralized authorities ruling over us as tyrannical overlords. Now, let me welcome to the show my co-host, Todd Pittner. Welcome, Todd. Are you ready for today's mind-blowing topic?
I am so ready for this. And I remember my dad used to say, you can call me whatever you want, just don't call me late for LENR. Wait, maybe it wasn't LENR.
It was dinner.
Dinner. Okay. Oh, but LENR, it stands for something, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's the topic today. And our guest that we're going to introduce here shortly is James Martinez, who has been a longtime advocate of LENR, which is low energy nuclear reactions. Now, this is a mind-blowing technology that's been fully validated. There are actually licensing agreements in place for this tech right now. It's going to revolutionize the world because it is decentralization of energy production. At one point in the early days, it was called cold fusion. And then, of course, there was a giant cover-up to try to sweep that under the rug, even while the U.S. Navy was performing all kinds of experiments to find out how they could use this on submarines and aircraft carriers. So it's no longer referred to as cold fusion, but rather low-energy nuclear reactions. It's been replicated in hundreds of laboratories around the world, including Japan and China and Europe and lots of other places. And this is going to change the world once it is fully understood and embraced. Yet very few people know about this. But it has huge implications for even things like cryptocurrency mining, because mining takes power. And if you can get power for almost free, well, that's going to shake up the planet. So let's welcome to the show James Martinez. Welcome, James. It's great to have you on. It's been a while since we've spoken, but I greatly appreciate your work and all the advocacy that you have for this subject. Welcome to Decentralized TV.
Thanks. I love the title of the show. Good.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it's a relatively new show for us here. So let's start with this. Let's assume that our audience knows nothing about low-energy nuclear reactions. In fact, let's assume that they're skeptics, that they don't even believe that it exists, because that seems to be the default position. So if you were to talk to somebody starting from that position, how would you begin?
Well, I've done that thousands of times, thousands.
I'll bet.
And I've figured out over the years that the best way to transmit information is through film, not necessarily the written word at all for the general person. So the first thing I tell them to do is go onto YouTube and put in cold fusion 60 minutes. And this was probably the best presentation that I see out there for the general novice that has no idea what that is about. That 60 minutes piece was made well over 10 years ago, when the two scientists that discovered this, Pons and Fleischmann, were vindicated. Stanley Pons kind of went on his own way, and then Bob Fleischmann was in that news piece, and they clearly explained after both of their careers had been kind of ruined by this, that they indeed were correct. So I tell people, you can go to 60 minutes piece, look online, YouTube, it's there. You can watch a movie that was done by, I believe it was Paramount, that starred Val Kilmer back in I believe it was in the late 90s, where he plays a thief. And the whole subject matter is about the stolen property of cold fusion. That movie, I'm blanking out with the title on that, but today, I would always tell people to go to the 60 minutes piece because they want to hear it from an authoritative position. And whilst we know that most of the corporate news people are not telling the truth about anything or withdrawing, that 60 minutes piece is actually quite, and that's first. So a lot of people, I realize this is totally new and they've never heard of this before. And that's the beginning piece.
Okay, that's great. So that's where they can start to get some background on it. And your video is, it's breaking up a little bit. It's not critical yet, but I just want our audience to know that it's something feeding from your side, but we'll work that problem if it gets worse. But let me back up and state that it was 1989 that Fleischmann and Pons demonstrated the first cold fusion. I believe that was the University of Utah, Salt Lake City, right? And then there was
yeah, that's right.
Right. A big explosion of interest in it. And then within 2 weeks, all the hot fusion scientists, they pulled a COVID, basically. They said, no, none of that's true. Here's the real science. And then they had all the science papers, retracted and destroyed. And then they destroyed the careers of these two guys because they didn't want cold fusion to exist. And that was '89. And since then, as you say, it has been validated, and these two inventors have been vindicated. But isn't it worth noting that in the early days, even they didn't know why it worked exactly, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what I had heard. And then when they initially made their announcement, the Navy quietly went behind the scenes and reproduced the same experiment that Bob Fleischman and Pons did. And there wasn't a lot of news about that. In fact, they had more excess heat than Pons and Fleischman did using their model of the system that they used initially. And that, nobody heard about that because it was historically the biggest gaslighting scientific action I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They swept it all under the rug. There was a huge, gigantic nuclear contract that was lost, and a lot of angry people. The timing of it was really bad, and there's been books written about what really happened and so forth.
So let me also bring in. I'm going to provide some context, and Todd, if I'll bring you in, but just if you don't mind the patience, just listen for a little bit. I want to explain a couple of things to the audience. So cold fusion generates excess heat. It does not just generate electricity. It generates heat. Now that heat can be used to, of course, produce steam and drive turbines, and turbines can be used to generate electricity. That's how coal plants work and nuclear plants work and everything, and even nuclear plants on U.S. Navy submarines, right? So if you can generate heat, you can do a lot of things. You can heat buildings. You could heat your home. You could heat a gymnasium. You could heat a government building. You could heat a military base. Excess heat can also be used, of course, to generate electricity when combined with steam and turbines. The thing is that this cold fusion, or LENR, as it's now called, this can be done very inexpensively, locally, in a very small format. So a LENR device, it's smaller than like a microwave oven, or could be. It could be commercialized smaller than a microwave oven. And everyone could have that. They could be built for just a few $1,000s. So whereas hot fusion is highly, highly centralized, billions of dollars, government funded projects, 15 years to build I forgot the name. What's the structure they have to build for hot fusion, right? For the magnetic containment field. That's centralized electricity where they keep you on the grid. Cold fusion, or LENR, once it is properly commercialized, can allow people to live with decentralized power almost anywhere in the world for almost free, or let's say closer to free. Not exactly free, but very inexpensively per kilowatt hour. So James, have I said anything incorrect there, or anything you want to add?
No, that is totally accurate and absolutely correct. And you also said what the big problem is too. The decentralization is the liberation of humanity.
Right.
Literally. This is the great turning point for the entire world, is the ability to generate cheap, clean, non-toxic energy, so much so that a pint of water can run your house for 15 years.
Right. All right, and I think the term I was looking for was, I think it's tokamak structure of the hot fusion. I think that's what it's called. But Todd, first of all, let's just get your reaction so far, because I think this might be the first time you're hearing some of this, like ever.
Totally. Let me pick my jaw up from the table, and let me just first say that my real value add to this episode is just to be able to tell everyone what I'm going to watch tonight on either Netflix or Amazon. I'm going to watch The Saint, 1997
yes, it was The Saint
movie,
right,
with Val Kim. So I added value. No, what strikes me, my mind immediately goes to the people in charge, the people we always say they, I call them the Druid Babylonian bastards of the world. And I'm thinking the Druid Babylonian bastards aren't going to like this technology much, James. It kind of gets in the way of their trillions, doesn't it?
It does, but the thing is everything that they planned and they said they want to do, they don't have the infrastructure to do it. Right. That's the thing. And most engineers know that, and the general public does not. So we're being lectured by everybody every day. You know, we got to go green, we got to save the planet, we got to do all these things. But the technological innovation to do that is not here. This is the only tech really that has a shot of doing any of that.
Can I, James, can I jump in? I think, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. should be all over this, by the way, because this is the greenest energy in the world. Low energy nuclear reactions has no emissions. It works when the sun doesn't shine. It doesn't matter what latitude you're at on the planet, the angle of incidence from sunlight striking the surface of the earth or whatever. It works at night. It works in the rain. Doesn't need the wind to blow. And you don't have to mine up all these toxic minerals out of these slave mines in China to build a low energy nuclear reaction device, or I should say very minimal inputs compared to the outputs that go on and on and on. So solar farms will be obsolete. Wind farms, obsolete. Coal, obsolete. All of it because of this. That's why they've tried to suppress it.
I love talking to you because I don't need to explain anything. You're one of the few people that get it. I usually have to spend my time explaining everything to everybody and sending documents and going through all these objections and how is this possible. But you've actually done your homework. You're one of the few people in new media that's done that. So everybody that's watching this is the guy who really has.
and it sounds to me, it's not much of a reach to be able to think about one of these devices powering our vehicles, right?
Yes. Well, eventually, yeah, you could. Oh, I'm sorry, James. You want to take that, or you want me to take it?
Well, I wanted to go back to RFK Jr.
Yeah,
he knows. I've emailed him. I told him. I haven't talked with him in person yet. I'm trying to arrange to do that because once he knows about this, and because I'll invite him into the labs and have him take a look at everything himself, and then his energy policy will be quite different.
No question.
Wow.
When the rest of the world figures out what's happened, I can say with relative optimism that America's not done yet at all.
Yeah, America could be the hub of innovation in this space, which would be it would be kind of the equivalent of the Middle East discovering oil, right? But brand new. America discovering we can't quite call it free energy. It's not exactly free energy. There are some inputs, but it's multiplied outputs. It's amplified energy.
You got it.
So, and then imagine you could heat, military bases for a fraction of the cost. And to get to your question, Todd, even though you can't directly power a car off of a device like this, once it's engineered to be compact enough to where it can fit in the trunk, you can have a hybrid electric vehicle that recharges the batteries when it's parked without having to plug into a home.
You got it.
Right? So it's constantly charging. It's not enough energy in real time to drive it, but as long as you're not driving 24 hours a day, hopefully, then it's going to recharge the batteries when you're parked, and you don't have to plug into the power grid. So James, please continue. I'm just trying to get the audience up to speed.
No, I'm glad you're doing it because I spend most of my time talking to technical people. I was in Europe and in South America where I was meeting and talking with people, investors. Europeans are much more up to speed with this because the energy costs over there are through the roof.
Yeah.
I talked to many business people over there, and they weren't even giving a warning about the cost and energy. Some places went up 700%. 700%. So a lot of business has been destroyed. They're having to adjust to all of this excess cost, and now they're being forced to look at new ways of doing technology energy-wise, which is a complete total changeover, because I've even had, for the first time ever, huge oil companies, billion-dollar oil companies, representatives have approached me now, and they're starting to engage the conversation. And it's so, we have all this data from some of the top scientists, and some of the people that were skeptics that were scientists are now crossing over more and more every single day. Every single day it's happening.
Well, and I know, James, there are people's names that you cannot yet mention publicly, but you've shared them with me. And of course, I respect your privacy and their privacy. But these are some of the wealthiest people in the world, some of the most innovative pioneers in the history of tech, who are now on board with this. I mean, again, we dare not mention their names, but if we did, people would recognize them.
Oh, they recognize them. And I was told specifically, because I said I was going to be talking to you today, and I spoke to somebody yesterday about, well, don't mention such and such name. And I said, okay. And these are some of the biggest technological overlords in the world that are involved. Wow. And when they made agreements to do certain things, they didn't want their names involved. And I was a little perturbed by that, because it just, it's not for the benefit of everybody. It's for the benefit of few, from certain things to have tactical advantage. And I wasn't in agreement with that, but I'm agreeing to keeping my mouth shut about that. Okay. But what the point of me saying that is, the train has left the station. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And I want to continue to provide convincing information to the skeptical audience. So I'm going to bring up this website here, brillowinenergy.com. It's on my laptop. So this is, I think, the leading company in the United States. They're located in Berkeley, and they have developed this technology, and it works. And they've had the science evaluated and tested, and it's all legit. So James, what can you tell us? What are you allowed to tell us about how the Brillowan company has already licensed this technology? Who are they licensing it to that's public now? And what is the application of these licenses?
They have licensing agreements with New Zealand, Australia. One of the biggest investors is actually in Australia, South Korea, and I believe another country. I think it's Norway. They say that on their website. They're quite public. They're very transparent about what they're doing. The agreements they have confidentially, they try and tell them when they're negotiating, we'd like to be public about this, but if they say no, don't. But the rest of them, it's been very public. I mean, anytime information goes out to people on it, they say exactly what they're doing. They're not hiding about anything.
But what kind of companies are they licensing to?
Technical companies. There's and other people that are like Australia. The gentleman in Australia, he's one of the top manufacturers for clothing, believe it or not. And in New Zealand, that's another technical company. In South Korea, is technical as well. And these have been people that have been following the field for a long time. They wanted to be right at the beginning of it. And I wanted to also bring up, this is important because you brought it up, and I want to say something about it. The crypto world. I introduced this to the crypto world well over 10 years ago, long time ago. And now they're at the table. And this would ultimately legitimize crypto once and for all. And a lot of people behind the scenes are talking about that. That I know is going on right now.
Well, James, when you say they, who are the they in crypto?
The ones that you've heard of, the biggest ones. Bitcoin.
But Bitcoin is not a they, it's a project. So it's just representatives from BTC.
Representatives, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Okay, cool. So probably the miners.
But yeah, the application in crypto, just as you say, Todd, mining. If you could get your electricity for almost nothing, obviously it would revolutionize. But the other thing is that one of the main criticisms of proof of work algorithm mining is that it's bad for the environment, because it uses so much energy, which it does, including
Right.
Bitcoin. So what if
Yeah.
you took that energy from cold fusion instead of off the grid? Then it changes the whole equation, right?
That's why they're at the door right now.
Yeah.
They know now. They realize now. So,
Yeah, and they should be. And also anybody who embraces this and actually builds their own local power plant, let's say to power a warehouse full of Bitcoin mining machines, ASICs, that person would have such a financial advantage just for themselves. It would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
That's absolutely correct. That's what's happening right now. It's taken a long time for those particular people to figure it out, but they do now. They do now.
So Todd asked a question. Todd, can I relay your question about how it works?
Sure, please do. Yeah.
Or were you going to just ask that question again?
Well, you can ask it. That no worries.
Okay. Well, and this is also on behalf of the audience, but walk us through it, James, how it works. I mean, it is mass being converted into energy at very small amounts because it doesn't take much mass to make a lot of energy. But this is happening with specific elements. Palladium, I believe, is part of it. And specific
Nickel, palladium, hydrogen is the power source.
There you go.
Imagine
Heavy water can be used as the excess hydrogen.
correct.
So yeah, walk us through how it works.
Basically, what Pons and Fleischmann did is they used heavy water and they used catalyst rods to stimulate the water. And the catalyst rods had certain material in them. And that material, when it's stimulated in the right lattice structure, creates the low nuclear reaction. Now, for those people that are new, they hear that word nuclear and they immediately think there's problems with that. But I assure you, there is no...
There's no radiation emitted.
Nothing.
Yeah.
None of that exists. It would never have gotten this far. But when those catalyst rods are stimulated with the right amount of energy, with the right structure in those rods, it can then be converted and it creates an energy source that comes out of it that is nuclear. There was arguments for years about whether or not that was chemical or nuclear, but now it's pretty much agreed upon that it's nuclear. And then what we have is we have more energy from the reaction coming out than going in. That's the over unity aspect of it.
But then there is some consumption of hydrogen in this process, which explains it. I mean, it's not violating the laws of physics. It's operating with the laws of physics.
Right. It's part of nature. It's within the confines of nature. So Berlin Energy and this whole field of LENR they're making a partnership with nature for the first time and doing so that it doesn't damage everything around it. So when this initially happened in '89, that wasn't allowed to be a reality. But over 30 years later, now it is. And now this is our best chance to do something practical for everybody.
So give me a timeline then from where we are now today to where it might be realistic that we could have something like this in our homes.
Well, it depends upon the public, because we've gone to the so-called powers that be, and they have not cooperated in any fashion in
Not
terms
surprising.
of rolling it out at all. This is private investment capital, angels investors that have taken it up to this point. And if angel investors came in with everything right now, they could have something out the door for the heating market probably within 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
That's if they got everything that they wanted to right now.
Right.
Another important factor in this is that the heating market probably will be the first because it's the easiest fit. But things are changing now because of the demand, and people like Bitcoin show up and other people, and they want electricity right away. All of that is possible. So it's really, I can't give you a definitive date other than based upon the level of their advancement as they're going along. I would say 2 years. It could be sooner if the public demanded it and wanted it. But I'm open now because the level of people I'm talking to now up the scale of powers has gotten higher and higher.
Right.
Today I just spoke to a state senator about it, and his jaw dropped to the ground. He doesn't even know what was going on, and I told him. And I'll probably be meeting with him in the next week or so to tell him,
because this will change the world. This is
Texas
going to
should be
change the
doing
world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this will totally change everything.
it's the ultimate decentralization, really,
Yeah.
because it allows you to not only live off grid, but to generate your own power that can be used to do all kinds of things, like, for example, mining crypto, as we're talking about, but also to power, your air conditioning, to power a manufacturing operation. So imagine manufacturing costs plummeting across the world because the electrical inputs that go into manufacturing now are a fraction of the price. I mean, think about, for example, in France, the glass company, I forgot their name, they shut down all their operations after the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, which took out the natural gas supply to much of Western Europe. And they had a product like Pyrex. They did various types of glass, but those ovens are all powered by natural gas. And without the gas, you don't have a business. Well, what if you had electricity that could be made in a green way, no emissions, no radiation, and the only thing you're consuming is actually heavy water? I mean, essentially deuterium, just extra hydrogen on the water molecule. That's it. And guess where you can find loads of that? The ocean.
Right. There you go.
It's like 3/4 of the planet. Yeah. So there you go. Take it away, James. What's next for people to know?
Well, another thing that people are not aware of is that ARPA-E, which is kind of like I'd say, sister agency next to DARPA, ARPA-E put money into this. The last meeting where all the top scientists met was the ICCF 24, which was in Mountain View, California. And you put some information out on this as it happened.
Yeah, we covered that.
And they had a device running at that conference. And when they did that conference, the press there was no press there, mostly because of the COVID issue. But when that took place, not too long after, ARPA-E awarded other researchers in this field money. They didn't give it to the leaders, of course, but they gave it to other people involved in this field. And that's never happened, ever. So they've legitimized the whole thing now. ARPA-E has.
So, okay, I think we just lost James there, Todd,
Yep.
but give us your reaction so far.
So I had a question while you guys were all talking. I'm like, what is heavy water? Is that something that I can go to my grocery store and just put it in my cart, or help me understand? It's salt water or seawater?
Okay. All right. Now, I am looking this up to get it right, Todd, but heavy water is a form of water whose hydrogen atoms are all deuterium, which is known as heavy hydrogen. So normally hydrogen has atomic mass of 1 or slightly more than 1, and then deuterium has atomic mass of 2. And so heavy water, instead of H2O, it's actually called D2O, and there's a certain percentage of heavy water molecules in all the water, but it's not obviously the majority of the water, but you can easily harvest it from the oceans without harming anything.
Okay, so James, just to note, he got it right. I already knew the answer, of course, but I just wanted to double check. So the other thing I keep thinking about is, how could, like, big oil, right? They should look at this and it should scare the bejesus out of them. How does big oil or another huge industry not come in and basically, fund their way to being in power and then just bookshelving this?
Well, I've dealt with big oil myself already, and they have completely got it wrong, because they think they're going to be shut out and closed, and that's just not going to happen. Even if this was on, somebody had this in their house tomorrow, the amount of time it's going to take to mass market and put it out there and so forth,
Sure,
it's going to be a long time. Most of the people that are in oil right now, they won't even be alive long enough to even see it really, out and to be concerned about that. And plus, we've had discussions with oil people many times, and we've told them, don't be intimidated by this. Join us. This is
join us.
Exactly.
I would imagine it.
The
I would
future.
imagine
Yeah.
it would lower their costs immensely as well, right?
Oh,
in producing
definitely.
oil.
Definitely. There's applications for the oil industry, water industry, desalination. The applications are endless. But there's one other thing.
Is there someone on your team who's in control now that would literally put a line in the sand and say, no, nobody's going to take control of this to bookshelf it?
There's many companies involved. It's too late. There's too many countries, too much research into this, and the demand for clean energy is too much that it's not going to be stopped. But the other thing I wanted to bring up too that's important is Oliver Stone just came out with a film called Nuclear. He was one of the first people that I took into SRA International and told him about this well over 10 years ago. So his son, Sean Stone, who I know very well, did a documentary that covered this topic and covered it very well and interviewed all the top guys about it. And then Oliver Stone came out with Nuclear. And then I asked him, because I haven't seen the film myself, but LENR is not covered in that at all. But I want to let everybody know, Oliver Stone knows about this because I took him there, showed him everything. He met with the top people in the world, and he knows about it. So I had another radio guy interview Oliver Stone and then confront him about it because he made this huge documentary film. He went and promoted it all over the world about the nuclear industry. And I said, I called up Sean and I said, what's he doing? He knows about this. I took him in specifically well over 10 years ago, and he wouldn't even put it in his movie. And he's going around talking to all these film places about nuclear energy. And like, this is nuclear energy. So when people are discussing this subject matter, they need to include this LENR as a solution with everything else that's going on as well. It's very important because people are they're not getting the full information. I mean, they've never really gotten the full information except for people such as yourself and others who've constantly discussed this over and over again.
Well, James, this reminds me, the term cold fusion has been so disparaged by the media and probably the three-letter agencies, that try to put it in the category of a conspiracy theory. It's kind of like the word geoengineering, right? So weather control, which is all now admit. I mean, I remember, 5 years ago, I'm talking about how there's stratospheric aerosol injection. They're going to release particulate matter to block the sun, dim the sun, block photosynthesis. And people are like, it's a conspiracy. Well, the White House just announced last week that they're looking at that exact thing. It's a geoengineering program that they now claim it's no longer conspiracy theory. It's going to save the planet, they say. So, same thing about cold fusion. It's just one of those things that you're not allowed to talk about no matter what the merits of the situation are. And so, but that's changing now, isn't it? I think it's changing because of the energy crisis that has been engineered upon us, right?
Yeah, it is. It's I wouldn't say it's backfiring, but it's forcing the issue that we're talking about to the surface because it's been so censored for so long. I mean, I was in London meeting with the Financial Times of London, and they're waiting because they know the truth. They're waiting to come out and say, okay, here's a device, it's running in a house type of thing. They were about to do a big story on the ARPA-E announcement because they were funding cold fusion research, which was unheard of many years ago. And they didn't get the exact details they wanted from ARPA themselves. And they were very interested in running that story, which would have went all over the world because the Financial Times of London is owned by the Japanese, and the Japanese have a company called Clean Planet, which is their LENR company. So there's a vested interest now all over the place for this to come out. It's just a matter of time. And more importantly, I've always emphasized that the public need to get involved with this, that they need to do not be reliant on big corporations and government, get themselves involved. There's still time to invest in it. There's still time to begin the transition into using applications for it. All those things should be discussed now. All of that it's happening behind the scenes. I get called every single day about all the changes that are happening. So this is a very positive thing. I'm really happy that we've gotten to this point, and I'm even more happy that guys such as yourself have done their homework and took the time out to really get into this because it's really important.
Well, I can't wait, and I'll turn it over to you, Todd. I know you want to jump in, but I can't wait to set up one of these in my home. I mean, or in my lab, because, I have a lab, and we routinely will spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars on another mass spec instrument. And I've got lab technicians. And so we deal with a lot of complicated stuff if it's not fully user friendly yet. But I'm hoping one day that, maybe Brillouin or maybe one of these companies in South Korea will say, okay, here's a prototype for, a couple $100,000. It's not yet consumer level, but it works. And we'd like to buy that, and show it, play with it. You think that day's coming?
Yes, I do think it's coming, because they're at that point. I mean, the big engineering moment for this was when they managed to figure out how to control it, how to switch it on, how to switch it off, how to turn it up and turn it down.
Yeah.
That was the big engineering feat that allowed the whole thing to move forward. Because if they didn't have that, they'd have nothing. And that's really the key to the whole thing. And Brillouin managed to figure that out after lengthy trial and error. So it's truly remarkable engineering. But, as with everything else, other people will figure that out eventually as well. And then it will be worldwide. It's going to be in our generation this thing comes out. So it's great.
Todd?
Yeah, I just have a question, James, and maybe I missed it at the beginning, but can you let us and our audience know your role right now? Are you founder of this project? Or are you just tell us a little bit more about you and your background?
I'll tell you how I got involved in this in 90 seconds.
Okay.
I was one of the original MK Ultra whistleblowers with a gentleman by the name of Walter Boert, who wrote the book Operation Mind Control in 1978. I got together with him in 1990, and we came out with Operation Mind Control Volume 2, the Special Researchers Edition. And what we saw coming with the world is what's happened now. It's all out in the open. Alex Jones has talked about it. You've talked about it. Everybody talked about it. And instead of getting into all the problems, we wanted to promote solutions. And we promoted cold fusion. We were the first people outside of scientists to promote the deployment of cold fusion to liberate the entire world into a different position. So the people involved at that time in 1990, right after the discovery, was Colonel Fletcher Prouty, Colonel Tom Bearden, Walter Boert, Robert McGuffin, myself, and a list of other science people that weren't really going to put their name on it. And then what I started to do was talk about it in public. I was one of the first people that was a non-scientist to put all this subject matter out on the table, because I knew I was talking not so much about the science, but rather the ecological effects, the effects on what it would do to culture, commerce, warfare, everything, but all the applications.
But I think, James,
that's how it
let me interject. I mean, what Todd's asking, and it's a legitimate question for the audience, you're not employed by any of these corporations that are licensed. I mean, you're kind of a passionate, self-driven you believe in this. This is my understanding, but correct me if I'm wrong. But you're kind of self-funded in all of this, right?
Yeah, there's a film called The Believers that was made about this. And when I was speaking in public a long time ago, a film crew came and they did this film called The Believers, a big documentary, the first big one about cold fusion. It's out on most of the platforms right now. And that was the moment I was basically announced the moment when third-party verification came in and said, this thing is real. That was captured on film, but I was an outsider. I was not one of the science people. I was interviewing all the science people, trying to promote them and say, everybody take a look at this. So that was my role in it. I was kind of a messenger.
So you've been the active LENR evangelist, speaking, spreading the gospel according to low energy nuclear reaction, right?
That's absolutely correct.
I can promise you, never a day in my life would I have ever woken up and said, I want to be an evangelist for low energy nuclear reactions. So what drove you to this? I mean, do you have a science background? I mean, what is your why on this?
No, I'm a media ecologist. Media ecology is about studying the technological effects of technology on culture. I got involved because the Marshall McLuhan Institute, boat, and because we knew at that time in '89, because of what they did to Pons and Fleischmann, that something was there. And then we found out there was a war from people in the Navy. And I was very empathetic to Pons and Fleischmann because I thought science was supposed to be about innovation and moving things forward. And then I found out, no, it's not. That the place where we are in science and development and innovation, where it is today, it's not. There's a bunch of tech that's been hidden from us. And I knew that this particular one would make it to the surface because there's an elegance and simplicity to it, and also because it would ultimately liberate humanity, which is what I wanted. I wanted to do something great and put my life into something having to do where everybody could win, basically.
All right, so the implications of this technology are obviously enormous, but also, it won't take long before this is reverse engineered. And there are going to be a lot of low-cost manufacturing of this in third world nations. So developing nations will very quickly have very low-cost energy that will revolutionize their agriculture. It will revolutionize, therefore, their food supply. And it will result in increasing populations, which is exactly what the globalists don't want to see on this planet. There's been this effort for decades to try to reduce, especially African populations, through a variety of means that we've covered on other shows. Well, this technology makes food less expensive because the number one input of food is energy. Right now, it's diesel fuel for the most part because of tractors and transportation and so on. But if you could grow food without using diesel and using cheap energy, then you're going to have a population explosion on our planet. So perhaps, James, this is one of the reasons why this has been attacked this entire time, because it would actually create, affordable food for the world. What do you think?
I agree. That's definitely one of the points. I made a call today to the Anthropocene Institute, which is run by a gentleman by the name of Carl Page, who's heavily involved with this, who's also been very public about his involvement with LENR. And I told him, I said, one of the things that needs to happen before this even hits the street is there needs to be a lot more dialogue about the effects and what it's going to do before it comes out, not while it comes out, before it comes out. The same way, there should have been dialogue about the cell phone before it came out and what the effects were there going to be with that, so that we can prepare ourselves for all the potential big changes, including food. But I'm talking about for industry itself, all the disruptive nature that it's going to have on commerce. All those things need to be discussed beforehand in a very public, open way, including the point you just talked about. That way, when you have open dialogue about it, about the effects of it, we can prepare to deal with it in a much more sane way than just have it show up on the market and suddenly all these things start to happen that we weren't prepared for. Because with all new advancements in technology, there should be discussion about the media ecological effects of the deployment of that onto culture, because it's going to be different in different locations, in different countries, and in different value systems. So I'm all for discussion and dialogue.
I agree. And let me bring in one other thing, though, and then Todd will bring you in too. I'm sorry to dominate this, but the whole climate change industry, where companies are selling carbon credits and making, hundreds of billions of dollars, or the idea that governments of the world can control people through climate narratives. They don't want to lose that control, you see? So low energy nuclear reactions, basically it ends the carbon credit industry scam. It ends the climate scare overnight because it makes energy totally green, no emissions. But it also then ends the power that gives governments to rule over people's lives, right? And to restrict them into 15-minute cities and other things. So that's what they don't want to give up, is the power through scarcity. What do you think, James?
Absolutely.
And then Todd. Yeah, go ahead.
I totally agree. I mean, people say, well, why did you get involved with this? You just said it. You just said it. People ask me that all the time. How come you spent so many years involved talking about this in public? Well, I knew where we were going to head and where we would be in 2022, 23. And I saw this as a win-win solution for everybody. Even the people that are trying to institute that, and I say trying to because it's not completed yet, if they really wanted to clean up the planet, that could have been done a long, long time ago. And there's the way things, this is just me now. My humble opinion is that we're not going to have a new world order. We're going to have a negotiation with something sort of like that, but not totally like that. And there's going to be regions of the world that are not going to go with that at all, that are going to be developing such as things as the LENR in certain regions, like in Africa, and other non-industrialized territories where they're more in harmony with the environment themselves. And all this whole discussion needs to take place, because I want to say this so everybody knows that the firm that's doing this and the other companies, they're just the engineers and science guys. They're providing a technology and saying, here it is. They're not involved in the political part at all. They don't want to be, nor should they be.
Yeah, don't blame them.
It's up to you and the viewing audience and everybody involved. I've been trying to get everybody involved to talk about this. So it's a group discussion. So we don't have a small number of people that have total control over it. If it's an open dialogue between the public and you, me, your listeners, and everybody else, that's the way it should be, because the engineers and science guys, they're just providing the tech, and that's it. They don't do public policy.
Right. So, okay, Todd, you can jump in, but I have a burning question as soon as you're done. But go ahead.
Oh, burn away, baby. I'll ask mine after.
Oh, okay. Well, here's my burning question then, because this is the $1 trillion idea or application of this is so obvious at this point. Somebody should license this tech, build a heater for your home, your office, your building, your gymnasium, your school, whatever, a heater that has an onboard Bitcoin miner.
Oh.
And so it's producing heat and it's mining crypto, which means it doesn't only heat your home for almost nothing, it freaking generates money to power the digital global economy with an honest ledger system that no government can falsify by printing more Bitcoin. You know what I mean? I mean, the hybrid solutions of this are just begging to be joined here.
You're absolutely correct. You said that, not me. And there's other people that will say other things as well, but I agree, and you're right. It changes our destiny. Everybody's.
It does. I mean, imagine you get paid to heat your home. You're running a node, like cold fusion with an Ethernet jack on the back of it, and a little onboard generator, like a little micro steam turbine that generates enough power for a mining system right there, and it just heats your home. Yeah, I mean, why can't somebody should do this? We should do this. Somebody should just do this.
Hey, just edit that part out, Mike, and let you and I take this offline.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
Right. No, I mean, it's going to take millions of dollars of engineering to get it right, obviously, but it's doable.
It's doable. Man.
Oh, it's totally doable. The amount of money to get it done, most movie budgets cost more.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
For less than the cost of a movie, we could change the world.
That is correct.
Yeah, totally.
Why I'm so encouraged today, James, is I've been looking at this world since 2020, and really just all I've been seeing is negative, Druid Babylonian bastard controlled systems out there, and oppression and just evil, frankly. And in my mind, I've been sitting back and I've been asking the question over and over, where are the white hats? Because I haven't been seeing them. They're not self-evident to me out there. But you are a white hat, man. It's like you have been working at this for 30 years and had the vision of where the puck is going versus where it is, and how it can change humanity in a positive way, in a good, beautiful, true way, with all caps on those. And I just want to say thank you for your evangelism of this. because I feel hope again. I mean, it's like this is a solution that upon implementation really will change the world for the better in so many different ways. And you know that better than anyone on this planet. But I just want to say thank you for educating me, who didn't know anything coming into this, and giving me hope, man. It's awesome.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I mean, I want to thank Mike, actually. Of all the people that I've spoken to about this, Mike has done the most homework, the most research, and been the most enthusiastic. I've spoken about it on national radio, local radio, documentary films, on stage, all over the place, all over the world, at press conferences. And Mike actually he figured it out.
His get it factor is just next level.
Well, Todd knows when I get interested in something, I dig hard, and I try to break it. I do everything possible. But yeah, I'm also fascinated by this because of the implications for our world. So the upshot of this, James, how does someone watching this show, is there an action item that this can translate into? How can they get involved? How do they get one of these devices eventually in the next few years? Is somebody offering pre-orders at some point for some kind of prototype? I mean, what do we do? What's the action?
I met privately with one of the biggest political donors in Dallas, actually. And this person had enough money to get the whole thing done. And they made a phone call right in front of me and asked, what's the DOE say on this, and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, well, for the cost of a movie, for a small amount of money, it's worth the risk. There's enough still excess cash around that people can still invest. I mean, your small investor can still invest in this. They have yet to fulfill Series D investment. And I would just email.
Are you talking about the Brillowan company?
Oh yeah,
they have investment.
They're still talking to investors now. They're negotiating right now as we speak, and people still have the capability of engaging them and talking. Like I said, the one thing that's great about this company is they've been very transparent for a very long time, because they've had to be, because it's been a very long uphill struggle to produce the credibility, go through the rigorous testing. There's been people flown in from all over the world to see what's going on there.
Well, I don't understand.
When you see the inside information that I'm not allowed to talk about, then it gets really impressive.
But James, impressive. I don't understand why General Electric or these appliance manufacturers, right, talk about like LG, Samsung, Whirlpool, whoever, all the brands. Why wouldn't they be all over this, man, right now? Or did they just not get it? Because if you already manufacture dishwashers and refrigerators, especially refrigerators, you have pretty much the infrastructure to make these devices.
Okay. Good question. And I'll answer that by saying that one of those companies that you just mentioned was at the door and was in the middle of negotiations. And then some disagreements happened, and then they pulled back.
Really?
Yeah. I knew all about it, because as you can imagine, there's been people that have done research on this, including in Texas by one of the biggest financiers in the world, that when he found out about it, he wanted to buy everything. He wanted everything for himself. And they said, no. There's other people that have come in and they wanted everything, but they said no. And also, I might add too, and this is an important thing to bring up, because I want to be honest about it, is that the United States won't issue a patent on this.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, and we've been in discussions with all sorts of people as to why not, and because that's been a make or break deal for a lot of investors, and I don't think that's going to last much longer because of ARPA-E putting money into it. But I don't think that should deter anybody from investing. But this is the part of the lunacy that's been going on behind the scenes in terms of who runs what and why.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, as you can imagine. I don't need to explain.
The U.S. Patent Office, they routinely confiscate patents and just label them national security, right?
Yeah.
So perhaps that may have already happened, and perhaps
yes, because there's two divisions of the patent office. There's the black part and then the other part.
Yeah.
And I know people that told me about the black part, and there's all sorts of patents on stuff that we're never going to see.
Yeah, weather control patents, by the way.
Yes, things like that.
Yeah, exotic materials, all kinds of things. All right, so James, we're going to wrap up this segment of the show, and then Todd and I are going to then have a reaction discussion based on this. And do you have any final thoughts, James, before we let you go? You're welcome to listen in, but it's just going to be me and Todd.
I love to listen. I would tell everybody, look into this for yourself. Mike has, many other people have. Look into the company, look into Berlin Energy, look into Clean Planet, look into LENRdiscovery.com, go to coldfusionnow.org. There's loads of websites. There's been enormous amount of press as of late about this. This is the new big thing that's about to happen. Finally, I can tell you, because I could tell in the last week when there was 4 stories that were put in my email box, all from separate places talking about this, that now is our moment. And I might say another thing too. This is American innovation.
Yeah.
We started this. This is our stuff. We have potentially a new beginning with this. But I want to encourage the public to get involved. Because as far as I'm concerned, our elected employees have totally failed on this mark. This could have been done a long time ago.
Yeah,
but the
for sure.
part is that the public now can participate themselves and get involved. That's what I would say. That's what I would suggest.
Okay. All right. Well, really excellent. James, as always, it's been just an honor to speak with you about this, and your heart and your passion are very evident. And you are one of the people changing the world. As Todd said, you are one of the white hats. And if we're waiting for white hats to save us, folks, we got one right here on the show today. Mm-hmm. His name is James, and the project is low energy nuclear reactions. So James, Todd and I are going to have a discussion now. You're welcome to stay tuned. Just mute yourself if you would, so there's no background noise. And then we're going to have a talk, and then you and I, James, we can catch up later over the weekend or whatever about things that are going on, or things you need to tell me off the record. I always appreciate that kind of stuff. So
I'll mute out. I'm going to mute out right now.
Okay, all good. Okay. All right.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Pleasure meeting you.
Join the official discussion channel for this show on Telegram at t.me/decentralizedtv, where you can ask questions or offer suggestions of who we should interview next. Also be sure to subscribe to the email newsletter on decentralize.tv, where you'll be alerted about 1 day in advance of each new upcoming episode, before it gets published. On Decentralize.tv, you'll also find links to our video channels and social media channels across all platforms, including Brighteon, Rumble, BitChute, Twitter, Truth Social, and more. Check it all out at Decentralize.tv. So Todd, fascinating. I mean, beyond fascinating, right? Just game-changing. What's your reaction?
My reaction is I want to go to a hat manufacturing company and get this big old red hat and put "Make LENR Great," not again, but making LENR great. That was astonishing, and I want to reinforce. I don't know if this is what you sent me last night, but was it LENRdiscovery.com? That was where I first. Whatever you sent me last night gave me kind of my first taste of what this was all about.
Okay. I don't recall what link I sent you last night, but that sounds familiar. That might have been one.
Okay. So I intend to, after this show, after we wrap things up, immediately go there to start looking into it.
Yeah.
And you know what hit me is like, this is groundbreaking, world-changing business we're talking about here.
Oh yeah.
And we just started our show. And
I know.
We're having blockbuster interviews like this. And I think people are going to start waking up and smelling the roses and saying, hey, maybe if I watch these shows and take a few notes, that I might get some insight into the future. And I certainly am interested in being a Series D investor in this, if that's still open. I mean, a little bit could go a long way when you're changing the world. But man, how did you get to know him?
Oh gosh, I've known James. I've interviewed James several times over the years, but I've known him for many years. Actually, he clued me in on this for about 3 years before we ever did an interview.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, and actually, no, here's how it happened. I was talking about cold fusion on a show years ago because I had followed this, and then James heard about that show, and then he reached out to me, and then we've been in touch ever since. But I think he was surprised to hear that somebody like me, I think I was on Alex's show maybe that day, that we were talking about cold fusion and, you know, the energy revolution, that the tech already exists. But I'd been following it for quite some time. But then through James, of course, learned a whole lot more. And James is tied into all the, you know, the business side, the negotiations, the different parties, and also, you know, some of the drama, because of course, an idea this big, everybody wants to own it. And so, because everybody sees trillions and trillions and trillions, which is what this really represents. And you can imagine the drama that goes with it. I mean, talk about, you know, even in crypto, people fight over coins because they know what they're going to be worth in the future. Imagine the fights over this intellectual property.
Amazing. I mean, I was thinking in my head, our show is called Decentralized TV, and I'm thinking James needs to figure out how to decentralize himself, because that's truly, that would keep me up at night, is being the tip of the spear on this, with trillions and trillions on the line here, being world changing. And it's about the trillions that aren't going to go to certain Druid Babylonian bastards. That's what I'd be concerned about. Because,
that's right.
Right?
This is
their fancy pants and lollipops are going to dry up. They aren't going to be able to buy it.
Well, and the other thing we didn't talk about on the show, but James gets this, is if you create energy abundance for the world, you stop wars. I mean, what are we fighting over in Ukraine and Russia?
Ding, ding, ding.
Russia they're sitting on the top energy commodities of the world: natural gas, fossil fuels, oil, and so on, and plus a lot of minerals. And so if you change the energy landscape, you actually end the conflicts that lead to war, or that lead to countries trying to fight the wars. So even in Iraq, why did we go to war with Iraq in '91, Operation Desert Storm? Was it to free the Iraqi people from Saddam? No, that's bullshit. It was to go in there and take the oil. Well, if you have energy for everybody, you don't need to go blow up nations to take their oil. And I think that's part of the reason why James is involved in this, because he sees the humanitarian side.
Yes. Could you imagine? I mean, we've already, this will make 2 shows now, world-changing shows. You know, Jim Gale, Food Forest, abundance.com, being able to literally change the world, feed everyone in the world just by teaching them how to plant a forest in their backyard. You know? And this, I mean, can you imagine a true world of Eden in the future, to where you could walk anywhere and just pick fruit and eat it, and go to your home that is basically run for free, close to free.
Close to free.
You have a little bit of make ready,
and also water desalination, right? So water desalination is very energy intensive, and if you can desalinate ocean water for virtually free, then you open up deserts all over the world. For farming and agriculture, right? So you revolutionize food production and food supply chains. And if you think about, what do greenhouses need to operate? They need energy for circulation of fans, for artificial lighting, for water pumps, for aquaculture or hydroponics. All of that can be provided through LENR systems once they're properly commercialized into small-scale electrical systems. Like, I live on a ranch. You know, would I pay $100 grand to have like my own energy module on a ranch, even if it's the size of a small barn, or like a size of a chicken house? Would I pay 100? Would I pay 200 grand? Yeah. Would I pay 300? I mean, I would pay a lot of money. So the revenue even for a prototype. So the revenue model is there for somebody who wants to license this and manufacture it and make it work. Because there are commercial operations, military, education, hospitals, all over the freaking world. Not even, you know, households will be the later application.
Yeah, but Mike,
First,
think about this.
Yeah.
Every bit of energy delivery, it's always that last mile that is the hardest and most expensive. There is no last mile.
That's right.
With this, right?
Right.
I mean, it's just
there.
delivered on a truck and installed like a generator.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm unbelievable.
Like, no, let me share something. On my ranch, I have different buildings, and I heat them with a centralized boiler that burns wood. So I don't run any heat. I don't pay for heat. I don't pay for furnaces right now. What I do is I gather wood, but I use machines that burn diesel to gather the wood. So I'm using fossil fuels to get the wood. I put it in the boiler, and the boiler burns the wood, and it heats the water. And then I have pumps that pump the hot water to the various buildings. And then I have basically radiator fans that blow the heat out of the hot water while the water is recirculating. So this is how I heat buildings. I've been doing it for 10 years.
Wow.
And since I get wood for free because trees just fall down and die on their own, it's the perfect system. Well, that system, instead of just burning wood, you could just attach a low energy nuclear reaction water heater.
Yeah.
My same exact infrastructure can just switch over from wood to that.
Oh, perfect.
And just heat everything. And you think about a lot of schools and universities and apartment buildings and dormitories, they have water radiators with hot water circulating through those systems, right? Military bases. You just go to the boiler room, you just yank out the gas burners, and you just stick in the low energy nuclear reaction heat system. Wow. It's done. The infrastructure is already there.
Yeah, yeah. Mike, how is BlackRock going to screw this up?
I don't know, man. I'm sure they're working on some method.
Those greedy bastards are. Those were the kind of people I was thinking about when I was asking the question of somebody coming in and gaining control in this, then bookshelving this. You know, just saying,
yeah,
this is.
I think that was a big fear early on, but as James said, the cat's out of the bag now.
Okay.
There are so many people working on this, and the intellectual knowledge is spreading.
So it's become decentralized.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, you notice that, James wasn't on our show shilling something.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, not that shilling is always bad. Like we'll interview guests that have a coin project, and of course they have some financial interest in the coin, but James wasn't here, plugging a coin.
No.
I mean, he did mention there's an investment opportunity with the company, but he's not part of that company.
He's not financially benefiting.
No, that's not his role. So he's here because he's passionate about it. Now, wouldn't it be interesting though, if as this is more commercialized, if there were some kind of crypto project, combined with it in some way?
Right.
Like we interviewed the Dione protocol guy that's trying to tokenize kilowatt hours with a coin.
Right. Good point.
And we talked about how the infrastructure of power right now is too centralized really for that project to be at the right time. But with decentralized power production, then maybe the Dione protocol suddenly could make a lot of sense because everybody could produce energy. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, you got me thinking about that.
Yeah. I mean, we have to let go of the world we once knew, right?
Yes,
because it's tech like this that's going to change everything.
Right.
Changing the rules.
Wayne Gretzky had it right. He was so damn good because he skated to where the puck was going. And that's kind of what this show is all about: bringing people. Different projects, technology, leaders who are skating where the puck is going. And so it excites me. Every time I get on one of these shows, Mike, with you, it's like a box of chocolates, man. Just don't know what we're going to get.
Well, and thanks for saying that. And I feel the same. I feel like every guest we have is mind-blowing. And I also feel like this show is delivering really extraordinary value to those who are discovering this show because they're learning things here that they just won't learn anywhere else. And, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos about a lot of projects, privacy and crypto and all kinds of things. And it's fine. it's fine, but a lot of it's just market analysis. You know, it's going to go up. If it goes up this much, it's going to go up this much more. Okay.
Yeah.
So what? Let's talk about revolutionizing the world, man.
Right.
You know,
right.
This is just market analysis.
With a couple of, I'll say it on behalf of myself, an older dude and you, who are not controlled by anyone.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
That's the best
part.
So
we don't have anybody who is paying us to be able to say what comes up on the teleprompter. Right. I mean, we're delivering real news. We're real innovation and technology. But I have to give you many great high props. James just said it. He was like, you know, you were such an early adopter with such a high get it factor. And you did your own work, you did your own research, and arrived at a positive conclusion and joined the evangelism train. And he really respects you, Mike, as do everybody else who gets to know you. So
yeah, again, thank you for saying that. I appreciate James saying that, but you know, we don't have time to. I mean, yeah, we all get it. But we don't have time to pat ourselves on the back. Our world is crumbling. You know, the current system is falling apart. And if we don't change radically, and I think RFK Jr. gets this, by the way.
Yeah.
If we don't change radically, we're done as a species, right?
I agree.
So we better damn well be on the top of our game. We better understand how this works, and we better implement these solutions. And when I was doing some of the research into LENR, by the way, I was looking at the technology that can directly convert heat into electric current. So you don't even have to boil water and have steam drive a turbine and then use a turbine as an AC generator.
Yeah.
There are technologies that are gaining in efficiency. Thermoelectric generators, I think, is what they're called. Basically, it's a solid state type of device that you place directly on a heat source, and it produces electric current. And there are no moving parts. And I think MIT has done research in this area. And there, as I recall, one of these devices actually works by using the heat to generate infrared radiation. And this radiation is picked up by a special photovoltaic cell, basically a solar panel that's driven by the wavelengths of infrared radiation. So it's really a thermo-solar or thermo-photovoltaic electric device, if that's the right combination of terms. But these devices exist, and they have much higher efficiencies now, like 30 or 40%, something like that. Think about as that tech comes around, then you don't even need moving parts. You just you generate heat, and then you have AC current from the heat, or maybe it starts out as DC, and you have to put an inverter on it. But we are not far from that day,
right?
Where you have a box next to your house. Like right now, you probably have an HVAC system, right? You have a big fan outside, you know, to blow the heat out. There's probably just going to be another device beside that.
Yes.
Which is going to be your power source, your heat source.
You won't need a generator.
You won't need a generator. Yeah. And you live in Florida. Hurricane comes through, wipes out the power grid, and you're like, so what?
You're done.
No, you're on your own grid. You are your grid.
And, you know, when that hurricane does come through, Mike, and my grid does go out, I'm really glad that I'm going to be able to use a sat phone.
You always remind me to plug our sponsor. Thank you for that. Let me bring them up. Let's do that. Sponsor for the show is a satellite phone store. And the website, one of them is called beready123.com here. And not only do they offer the satellite phones, of course, and the bivy stick communicators, but also these solar generator devices, which, by the way, will all be obsolete once low-energy nuclear reactions are rolled out. This will be obsolete.
Yes.
But until that day, this will help you, keep things running when the grid goes down. Lithium ion with charge controllers and inverters and solar panels and so on. So check all that out at beready123.com. They are the official sponsor of this show. We appreciate their sponsorship. But isn't it interesting that, we talk about be ready 123. You want to be ready. LENR is the ultimate prepper item, you know, once it's commercialized. I mean, you'll have heat and electricity, self-reliance. You don't need to have all these high voltage power lines, which are also causing cancer, by the way. And you don't need to live close to the city where you're going to get beamed by the cell towers every 5 seconds. Right. So you can go live out in the country on your own and have your own power grid, and you have no electric bill. You don't, I mean, you're heating water for free, or almost free. I mean, it's just a game changer.
I mean,
charging your electric car.
Goodbye 15-minute cities.
Yeah. I'm not moving to one of those 15-minute cities. No. I'd rather have a 5-hour ranch. How about that? But anyway, so I think, you know, folks, you can go on to brighteon.com. I think you can search for either cold fusion or low energy nuclear reactions, LENR. I know a couple of my previous interviews are on there with James also, if you want to learn some more. And then there's the company here. Where did it go? Here it is, Brillowan Energy. If you want to just go there, they have a lot of educational material. You can read about them and just get up to speed on this tech, because this is going to change the world. And if you're left behind on this, you know, if you don't know this is coming, you're going to be shocked by the changes. You know, you don't want to get smacked upside the head by the revolution in energy. You want to know in advance, which is what this show is all about.
You want to be talking about LENR, not bonus holes.
That's right. What about bonus kilowatts? How about that?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
All right.
Much better.
Perfectly. Okay. Well, Todd, I guess that's about it. I mean, great guest, great topic, great discussion. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, just thank you. Thank you for your personal network. I mean, these interviews are coming out of the woodwork, you know, and they're calling you. And so just thank you for your couple decades of investment, because it's all bearing fruit. And I have a sneaky suspicion we're going to be seeing a lot more white hats on this show.
My Rolodex is a very powerful collection of intriguing people. If I ever get them all in the same room at the same time, like, I don't know, the universe might end or something. But one at a time, we can handle them. So great people. Great show. Thank you, Todd. It's been awesome. And this is the reason why we launched the show, to have interviews like this. So we'll do more.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So folks, the website is decentralize.tv. Just go there and you can watch the episodes there. Sign up for the email list. You'll be alerted in advance of the upcoming episode. So we'll give you about a 1-day heads up before each episode airs. We do film these in advance, sometimes a couple of weeks in advance, because we now have so many guests coming on that I think we're going to have to go. Todd, I think we're going to have to do 3 shows a week now just to keep up.
I think so.
It's probably going to be a daily show is probably where this is going. But anyway.
I would put that in the that wouldn't suck category.
Yeah, that wouldn't suck. No. I just have to stop doing something else that I'm doing, but that's okay. This is totally worth it. So anyway, sign up for the email list. Check the website again for all our links on social media and video channels and so on. And as always, repost this episode if you'd like to on your own channels and other platforms as well. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of brighteon.com, the platform I built after YouTube deplatformed me, by the way. So YouTube, you lose.
Hey, Mike, if I could just ask our audience watching right now, if you're watching right now, can you do us a favor? Just create a network effect for us. Can you go ahead and think of 3 people in your life who you think would also like to be on the leading edge when it comes to receiving, seeing, witnessing amazing interviews like we had today with James?
Yeah.
That's how you can get involved.
Totally.
Help us help you, the program grow, and others, because we are going to be talking about solutions, not just problems. Right, Mike?
Yeah. Well, like today, this is actually almost everything we talk about here is solution oriented.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't had a show focus on a problem.
Nope.
Every show has been, I mean, the Food Forest show that everybody, you got to watch that with Jim Gale.
Yeah.
You know,
so good.
The Beam crypto show, like pretty amazing practical solutions. I mean, everything's solution oriented. So hey, you want to live a better life? You want to have a heads up of what's coming, what's going to change the world? Watch this show. I mean, you're going to get it right here.
Yep.
I got a 20-year Rolodex of interesting people to invite on. So it's
and our byline is decentralized living,
Yeah.
And so we suck, Mike, if we don't bring content focused on decentralized living.
Right. No, this is all about decentralized living. 100%, man. That's the show. Yeah, we're going to do it every time. No one's ever going to be disappointed. In fact, Todd, if we ever film a show that sucks, I'm just not going to air it.
There you go.
That's the rule.
I think deal.
Okay,
That's a
deal. Yeah. If it sucks, we're just like, no.
Yeah.
No. So everything we put out there is going to be good.
And you know what? We might interview someone about something to where maybe it goes off the rails and maybe it sucks. I don't know.
It's possible.
You
yeah, I mean,
know.
it's not scripted, so anything could happen.
No.
Yeah, I was like today. You noticed how many technical glitches happened today because we're talking about low energy nuclear reactions? We got disconnected multiple times, which never happens in this studio.
Never.
And James was telling us the same thing. He's like, every time he gets on with people about this, their side things go haywire.
The boogeyman.
Yeah, I'm telling you. It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, every show is going to be worth watching. So thank you all for watching today. And thank you, Todd. It's been a lot of fun. And we'll talk
Always
later.
is.
I'll keep you posted. I'm doing another interview tonight on my own, and we'll do the follow-up later on, a couple of days later. Okay. All right. Have a good day, Todd. And for all of you watching, have a great day or evening as well, wherever you are. And watch for each episode on decentralize.tv. Thanks for watching.